everybody, welcome back. This is Juliet. So I've been working on this little guy for a year. I started him last year and I wasn't happy with the thread paths, and it was just incredibly difficult. So I didn't do a video for him. And finally this year I have figured out how to do it correctly. I have made so many of these and I've even taken a bunch apart. I've probably made like 9 trying to figure out the best way. I mean, you can see that originally I had problems with the thread showing. I had all kinds of problems. Anyway, we finally solved him. This is the latest pattern, and it's slightly different than this one, which, as you can see, again has a little bit of the thread showing there. But I've solved this issue by having this little rim around the edge of him. And yeah, he's so cute. You can do his beard either way. You can have, like, here I did short and long fringe, so he kind of is a little bit more spiky, I guess. Or you can have him be more smooth, like this guy here. And he's not just for Christmas. You could totally, instead of doing a little star on him, you know, you could do a maybe like a leprechaun, you know, do a little 4-leaf clover or something like that. Maybe have some like orangey red for his beard so that he really looks kind of Irish, you know. So have fun. You could make stripes in his hat. He's very customizable. He is not for a beginner beader. He is definitely more for an advanced beader, or maybe intermediate. If you're quite a confident intermediate beader, then you'd probably be okay with it. But I will say he does take some patience, especially with the fringe. Here, for example, I accidentally got caught and I didn't notice until the end, so I'm annoyed about that. So do take your time with the fringe. Make sure that it's all the way you want it to be. But they're really cute. They could be used as an earring. They're kind of small, probably like 1.5 inches high. So I'll just run through the material list very quickly. So obviously you need whatever color you're going to use for his hat. I'm using rounds. You could use delicas or cylinder beads if you want to. It might actually be easier because we will be peyoteing his hat section. So either rounds or cylinders. Then I've got some green here because I'm actually going to make the very bottom row of his hat and this little lip, I'm going to make it green. On the guy that I'm going to do now. Then I've got his beard color, so I'm going to use white. He's going to be a little Santa. Then I've got some 15-0, which will be for his little star and for the little loop at the top. I have here a 4mm pink, well, peach, I guess, pearl, which is obviously for his nose. You could use if you have like a bronze or brown even for his nose, if you don't have a peach, whatever color nose you think a gnome should have. Then I have here an 8mm pearl. You could also use a 6mm pearl. This goes up inside him to keep him from being squished. So this one I used a 6mm. This one I used an 8mm. It doesn't seem to matter which, as long as you have something in there, because you can put it whatever height you need to for it to fit. So just so he's solid and doesn't go flat. On the sample I just showed you, where did I put it? Oh, here. Here's one that I was making. You can see you can like squish it flat if you don't have something in there to support him. Then thread. Let's talk about thread for a second. Usually with fringe, I would use something like a KO. However, for this one, I actually used both of these. I used 4-pound Fireline. I think it's just easier to work with for the bulk of it, and it doesn't seem to, the fringe is so short, it doesn't need to flow as much. So I think you'll be fine with the Fireline, but if you want, you could use a nylon thread. Okay, so you're going to need 6 feet or 1.5 meters. You're going to need a lot of thread for this, and I want you to leave a 12-inch, at least a 12-inch tail, because we're going to be using the tail to finish off things like part of the star, the little loop on him, and his nose. So and the bead inside. So you will need the tail, so leave a foot at least when you put on your stop bead. So this is a stop bead. I'm assuming if you're an intermediate or advanced beader, you know what a stop bead is. So go ahead and put that on and leave your 12 inches of thread. So you have all this left to work with later. Okay, so once you've got your stop bead on, you're going to pick up 30 beads in total. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. My first bead and last bead, I'm using a green for his hat because I want a little green rim around his hat, like on this guy. So this bottom row here and this row on mine are going to be green. If you want him to be all red, just pick up 30 red beads. If you want to do a stripe, my suggestion would be to pick up either 3 or 5, you know, like in different colors. And the middle here is basically the top of the hat, then we go back down again. So they need to match, the sides need to match each other. So if you have this be red, this be white, this be green, this be green, white, red, for example, okay? So just so you know that. All right, so I got my 30 beads on. I'm going to create a little picot by picking up 2 beads. I'm going to sew into the, oops, sorry, nearly stabbed myself, the second bead. Okay, so sew into the second bead, pull that all down, push it all down to your stop bead. Hang on, my tail's longer than I need it to be. Okay. All right, so you've got a little picot, turn, and then we're going to peyote stitch 6 times. So hopefully if you're an intermediate to an advanced beader, you know how to peyote already. Basically, if you don't, you pick up 1 bead, you skip the next bead, and you sew into the second bead. And when you pull that, it creates like a little pair of beads together like that, okay? So go ahead and peyote 6 times. And if you are a person who struggles with your tension on your first row, the easiest way to get the beads to go together, because I'm not even using delicas, I'm using rounds here, is to just pull your 2 sides apart and then it'll sit, okay? And don't worry too much about the tension because it all gets sorted out usually in the second row. So go ahead and do 6, and I will come back in a second. Okay, so at this point, go ahead, check that you still have a foot left on your tail. I needed to just tug the bottom down and give myself a little bit extra thread. So at this point, it's a good idea to do that. Just check that you still have enough. All right, so now what you should have is, if you're doing all one color, it'll look like you have 7 pairs. So I'm going to count this bottom pair, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and you're coming out of the next single bead. You're going to skip the next 2 beads, and you're going to sew down into the 3rd bead. And what that's going to do is it's going to bring these 2 beads together and create like the point of his hat that we'll be working from. So don't worry if you can't get it tight at this point, because once we join the next row together, that will stay together. All right, so we're going to peyote 6 more times down here. So just continue on as you were, picking up 1 bead, skipping the next bead, going into the next bead. So that's 1. So I'm going to do it 5 more times, and then I will come back. All right, so I've added my 6 beads here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm exiting the one right before the very last bead, okay, so I'm exiting from the second to last one. So here I'm going to pick up 2 of whatever the bottom of your hat is, and I'm going to sew upwards through that bead like this. And what that's going to do is create a little turn just like we have on this side, okay? So I'm coming out here. Okay. So now I am going to peyote again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. So go ahead, just continue on what you were doing. So pick up a bead and go into the next pair. So you're not going into the single bead, you're going into the like pair that's above where you're coming out. Okay. Hopefully you know what I'm talking about. And you're just going to fill in 6 gaps. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And I should add that at this point you might be working on the outside edge, or you might be working on the inside edge. It just depends how your piece is twisted around. Okay, so if you're like, oh no, why is she working on the inside and I'm working on the outside? Don't worry about that yet. We're gonna deal with that in a minute. Okay, so you should now be exiting. So you basically have these 2 single beads and these 2 single beads at the very top. All right, So we're going to go into the first single bead, not the top single bead, but the, I guess the second down one on our working side. And then we're going to pick up one bead, and then we're going to sew down into the second bead. So we're skipping the two top ones. We're going into the second bead. Not these two. These two are the top. You're going into the second. Okay, so we're and what you want is you want it to sit kind of on top. See how it sits kind of on top of the beads? It's like a next layer almost. Okay. So now we're going to peyote. It doesn't matter which side you go down. You can either go down your inside layer or your outside layer. Just whatever looks easier to you. To me, it looks easier to go down the outside. So pass through your next bead, one of the two, and then you're going to add 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 peyote beads. Okay, and I will come back once we've done that. So you should now have 6 beads, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and you're exiting the bottom pair of beads here next to your picot bead. So we're going to pick up 2 beads, okay, and you're going to go into this sticking out bead of the peyote you just did. So it's basically an even count peyote turn with a picot added, with an extra bead added. Okay. All right. So we're now going to peyote back up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then stop, and I will rejoin you. So I've added my 5 beads, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'm here coming out of this pair. I have another pair immediately behind me. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn my work so that I'm facing the inside. If you were working on the inside, you don't need to turn it, okay? You're going to go up into your next bead. So you should have a pair here and then a single bead. So pass up into the next bead above where you were working. And then you're going to look on this side over here. You want your tail thread to be coming out of the outside edge. So if your work is like this and your tail's coming out the inside, you're going to pivot it around right now. Okay, so that your tail is on the outside edge. And this is going to allow us, instead of doing odd count peyote and having that complicated turn, we're going to do nice and easy, even peyote. Okay, so this turn is very important. Make sure that your tail is on the outer edge. So if you look here, we've got 2 beads at the top, we've got 3 beads here, and then we got 2 here and 2 here. So you're going to go into the pair that matches. So just below where your 3 beads are. And make sure that that thread goes underneath your 3rd bead, not on top of it, okay? And that's going to pull it together like this. And this should help that 3rd bead sit up a little bit. Okay, so pull nice and tight. All right, now we're going to peyote. We're going to add 6 beads. 1, 2, 3. Sorry, I lost count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So go ahead, add 6 beads, and I'll come back to you. Okay, so I've added my 6 beads. I'm exiting the bottom bead. I'm going to pick up 2 beads, and we're just doing exactly the same turn we did before. So you're going to go up into the bead that you just added on that row. Okay, so like this. So now we are going to fill in the gaps, peyote up. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 beads. I'll just do it quickly here. And then you're going to look at your piece. So you're coming out this bead. The equivalent row is this one on this side, right? So you should have 3 beads on this side and 2 beads on that side. See how I have 1, 2, 3, and I have 1, 2. This row right here is our zip row. That's our zipper row. So you're always going to be off a little bit, okay? So go ahead and go down into that bead that's right across from you and the next bead. So you're going to go down 2 beads. All right, so now we're just going to peyote down and do our turn. And just remember that when you are doing your turn, you're picking up 2 beads, okay? And you're going into the sticking out bead, not the bottom bead, but the second bead when you're doing your turn. Okay, so now we're going to peyote up. We're going to fill this hole, and then we're going to go up 2. So when you get to that top one, pass up through 2. And we're going to keep doing this until we meet in the middle. And always on the side that doesn't have your tail, you're always going to pass up or down 2 beads. And on the side that does have your tail, you're going to pass down 1. So if you look across to the single bead that's here, we're just going down that 1 bead. All right, so keep going, peyote down, do your 2 bead turn, peyote up. You'll have 1 bead on this side that you go through, but you'll have to go down 2 beads on this side, peyote up, pass up 2 beads, which will be here, go across, go down 1 bead, peyote down. Just keep going until you're nearly at the bottom. So I'm gonna go ahead and fill that in, and I will join you back when I'm almost done. I've just come back quickly to show you that when you're going up on your tail side, you do have you have to fill in this gap so that you're coming out here, and then you go down these 2. I realize that sometimes you might think, oh, I'm done here. There is one more gap here where you need to make sure you do put a bead in order to make sure that your pairs are going down together, okay? It will look strange because this side is longer. It's kind of a little confusing visually because this side has the zipper on it. So I just wanted to clarify that. I'll see you back in a minute. Okay, so welcome back. If you made it this far, give yourself a pat on the back. I know it's a little confusing having to remember to go up 2 on this side and just through 1 on that side, but it makes it easier for our turning. So Okay, I've been working with it this way up because I found it easier, but I'm turning it back over just so that you guys have the same reference point that we started with. So I'm almost at the end here. Just going to put my turn on, and I'll show you how to close this guy up. So going up 1, still got to go down 2, even though there's not a lot of beads left. I've only got 1 bead left to do on this side, and then I have to do my turn. And here I'm still going to go up 2, still doing it. Even though I'm this close to the end, I've still got to go up 2. Down 1 on this side. Okay, I'll go ahead and pick up my turning beads. Going into this 1 single bead right here. And then I'm going to go down into, because there's only really one bead left. Well, actually, now there is 2 because this one. So go ahead, go down the 2 beads on that side. I can't get in. So I'm still going down 2 beads, okay, on that side. So my bottom row is fully on. I'm just missing 1 picot right here. So just pick up 1. And then go ahead and sew up until up this opposite spine, if you want to call it this spine. You should be able to see a straight line. You're going to leave these top 2. So sew up until you reach the 3rd bead. So not these 2, but sew into this, so all the way up until you get to that 3rd bead. And you don't have to do it in one go. You can do it in 2 parts, that's fine. Okay, so I'm coming out just below this row of 3. I'm going to sew into this weird little sticking out bead that we have right here. Okay, so go ahead and sew into that. And now we're going to form our hat. You can take your stop bead off if you want to. So fold your hat towards your 3rd bead. So your 3rd bead should be like on the folding side, okay? Like this. And then you're going to, so if you look carefully here, you'll see that we have a zipper. So if you line up your 2 bottom beads, then we have 1 sticking out this side, 1 sticking out this side, 1 sticking out this side. So go ahead and line them up. So sew into that top zipper on that side. Zipper bead, as I like to say. And then we're gonna zip it together. So go ahead and sew down the next zipper bead. And then down the next bead. And if you kind of flatten your hat out a little bit, it helps you to kind of get the tension a little better. So just go ahead and zip those two sides together. Okay, and when you get to the bottom, we need to add 1 picot. So go ahead, sew into the next bead where your tail's coming out from, and go ahead and pick up that 1 bead and go up into that next bead. Okay, and then pull everything nice and tight. And then what I also like to do, just to make sure these two are tied together, is go back down into that bead right across from it, and that'll really get them close together. Okay, so this is essentially the basic hat.